Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Handyman Internet TV show. My name is Jason Antelik, and I am your host. And here we are all about putting spiritual tools into the hands of the people that need them. Today, we're going to be talking to Beth Peters, and she has got some personal tips and tricks on connecting to your psychic abilities and what it feels like to wade through those things and how to maintain and continue to evolve that connection. She's a pretty amazing human herself as a psychic medium. She's also a pet communicator, radio host for United Intentions. So she's got lots of great information to share with us today. Remind everybody that you can find us at thespiritualhandyman.com. Our posts go up every Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. That's when you can find all the brand new shows. That's every Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and of course, you can check out all the episodes at thespiritualhandyman.com. If you would like to support the show, be a sponsor or a guest, you can go to thespiritualhandyman.com, click donate or guest or sponsorships and get involved that way. We'd of course love to have you. We are proudly sponsored by the Eagle Heart Foundation and Dr. Joy Gray, also known as Granddaughter Crow. We appreciate your patronage and your support. So let's get into the goodies today. Once again, we're talking with Beth Peters, a psychic and a medium, also an animal communicator. So Beth, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Hi, Jason. It's good to be on your show. I'm so excited. I had you on my Psychic Soup show. So if people want to find you on my show, which was on the United Intentions, the name of the show is Psychic Soup, and look for Jason Antelik, and it was called The Spiritual Handyman. So you guys look that up. He was fabulous. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be on your show. But I call myself a psychic and a medium by profession. I do this full time. People come to me for intuitive life guidance as well. And they also bring their pets to me because I can read them as well, whether they're alive or past. Do this phone or in my own private office, which is here in Buckhead in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I do the radio show on Mondays, which I volunteer my time for that, for the United Intentions Foundation. And like I said, the name of that show is called Psychic Soup. So this is what I do by profession. Before that, I raised 5 children. I'm almost done, not quite done, but almost done. I've got 1 left to get into college. I have 3 grandchildren now, and I am just about to start this leg of my journey where I get to be a kid again. And I'm so excited after raising 5 kids. And I have the best job in the world with the freedom to be able to go and travel and do what I want. So I love that. Thank you for asking.
That's great. I didn't know about the grandkids. That was news to me. That's very cool. I can't decide if it's Grandma Peters or Granny Beth. I don't know yet. I guess we'll figure it out as we go. And thanks.
Lots of people. I've been nicknamed Mama Beth since I was in elementary school, for real. For some reason, and it's just now coming into my life later in life, where I'm running into people. You know how you have those years where you run into people like it's almost like a reunion year, and everybody is like, oh my gosh, I'm not surprised that you're doing this work full time. When you were in school, you were always the person people went to for advice. And I'm like, really? I don't remember that. And they're like, oh yeah, you were an old soul. You were always Mama Beth. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. So that's kind of funny. It's all coming full circle now. So it may be Mama Beth, but I am teaching my grandchildren grandma.
Well, there you go. There you go. So that gets us right into the segue of what your path looked like. It sounds like you were practicing your gifts early on, but not necessarily fully aware. But definitely some other people recognized what was happening. So as that came into your awareness, what was that like for you?
Absolutely. Looking back on it now in hindsight, I realize how in tune I was my whole life. But of course, like you said, I did not know that. And I think I personally wasn't ready for it. The responsibility of it and the moral compass of it. I don't know that I was ready to actually comprehend that while I was raising children and while I was, serving in other capacities. So I had a very super, super busy young life. I spent a lot of time in performing arts, always very intuitive. I would joke with my friends. I'd have dreams at night and then they'd come true, but I never really thought anything about it. But then after my fifth child, it was about 5 years later, so I was in my mid-30s, was when all of a sudden it was like God was knocking on the door going, okay, it's time. Okay, it's time. And all of the windows just started waking up. And it got so loud, and it's so many signs and synchronicities. Of course, I never knew I would be a psychic reader. I worked in the school system for 18 years. I was very happy I was going to retire. But it was very obvious that my life was taking a different path. Still happily married, still am. You know, my husband grew with me, thank goodness, not apart. And, you know, we've had a great time through this journey. But I've since quit my job in the school system a few years ago and started doing this full time. And it truly, saving time, I could probably write a book about the process, but it truly was a calling. I don't feel like I had a choice. And I think it's very interesting as I interview guests on my show, I find that this happens a lot around this age, especially with women. So it even makes me think about the Native American culture and medicine women and when they were considered wise women. So I'm wondering, you know, I haven't studied it enough to know. I'd like to study it, but to really figure out why at certain ages those those light bulbs go off.
That's a great insight. And my experience and what what I've learned is that oftentimes when we're young, we're open and we're just kind of that open book, right? So we have the experiences, we have the spiritual experiences because there's really not a lot of stuff in the way, right? There's not a lot of noise yet. And then as we get into our teenage years, a lot more starts happening with our bodies and socially and with our families, and we start to grow. And oftentimes between those teenage years and up into the late 20s and early 30s, we're actually having a real life, right? So the spirituality in that time frame can often take a back seat and develop later on because, like you said, you're not necessarily ready. Right? You got kids to raise, you got a career, you have so much stuff going on for it to just flow in the middle of that would be very disruptive to what your path is at that time.
I was driving the minivan and I was the soccer mom and the dance mom. I can't even imagine if that had happened during that.
Right. And all the things that are part of our experience moving up into that spiritual awakening or the divergence from what we thought our path was into the spiritual realm is often is often forced, like you said, or some sort of moment of awakening, right? But we find that it's a culmination of our experience. So all of the things that we've done add into where we are now. Like for me, having this show is very much like that. I recognized that I needed spiritual tools when I was recovering, and I started to apply simple stuff and it started to work, right? But then as I got better, and I decided I want to share that with the world. Well, how do I do that? Well, as a DJ for 20 years, I worked with audio and video, and I always enjoyed doing those things. And now I get to play with the gizmos and gadgets and still satisfy the spiritual side by, hosting a show and having people on it. So I'm sure that along the way you had that same experience.
Such a great medium and such a great tool to be able to use to reach the masses. I totally agree with that. I personally never saw myself as a radio host. I was always on stage performing in some way. And of course, in foresight, I never thought that I would be doing this, reaching masses and talking and doing workshops and lecturing and coaching people, or certainly not doing big galleries. And like I said, being a radio host. But when you look back at it, you're like, oh, that was the path that was being carved all along,
Yep.
And I just didn't realize it. And so you're right. It's really funny how you can go back and literally meticulously pick things apart and figure out where it came into place in your journey and where you are now and why it happened.
And I hear a lot of people relate that in lots of ways. The one thing I hear the most is I was in corporate America, and then right, because
Yes,
that seems to be how if you wake up in corporate America, you recognize that you're not in the right place anymore. It's pretty obvious,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
while you
But
were waking, oh,
I do want to say though, to those that, for some reason need to stay in corporate America, or, the health insurance benefits, there's lots of reasons that they may not be able to go independent. I was very fortunate that my husband was able to pick up my health insurance. And so I was able to go independent. So, there's lots of reasons why some people have to stay in their jobs. But what I noticed is before I left my job in the school system, I figured out ways to serve in the school system. So I was in the prime spot to be able to serve students and parents and shine my light and shine my true authentic self and just really be a witness, as Christians would call it, a witness for people to go, why is she different? Do you see what I'm saying? So I think there's a purpose that we're all mixed in, and maybe not everybody has the opportunity to go out on the leg and do this on their own. So they can still grow and be enhanced and enhance their communities around them.
I absolutely agree. I was still in the corporate world when I began to make this shift. I was working for a highly internationally known coffee company, and working with talking with people across the counter. I learned that I was starting to pick up on more and more things, and had less and less desire to share everything that was popping in my head. But it really helped me understand that everybody's going through something, right?
Right.
Even though I was on one side, there were people going through things on the other side, and I often looked for those opportunities to connect and to, like you
Yeah,
said, to bring that light. And when
absolutely.
you're looking for them, they show up.
Absolutely. And it actually enhances your abilities too to be mixed in the fray. Because if I was surrounded all the time by like-minded people and people that just wanted my services and, weren't, I'm not saying not real, but if I surround myself and I'm not getting in those communities with people that are just walking that everyday life and are not awakened, then it's going to be very difficult for me to be able to see those subtle differences in a person that's an awake and someone that's not. We have to see the dark and the light. Not that they're dark, that's not what I mean, but you know what I mean. You have to have the shadow aspect so you can serve better and not, and really work on your skills, your personal development as you integrate in this life experience in the physical.
Right. The culmination of everything. Once again, it's all the pieces and parts. The good experiences, the ones we categorize as the bad or negative experiences, they are all contributing factors to who we are today and how we do things. That's why everybody is in their own place, right? They're living their subjective truth. So when
I really have a testimony of divine timing too. I know that when you're ready to make a shift in your life, it will happen. It's not something you have to force. It will arrive. If you are open to it and you're willing to take the action steps when you feel nudged, those little nudges, then your life will flow in this ebb and flow of really exactly how it should go.
So I love that you've touched on that. So let's explore that a little bit more if we could, Beth, because I know that you're very aware of what those nudges feel like, and how to kind of move those into action. So share some of your experience or your tricks to recognize those things and how to react to those to make them part of your experience.
Okay. So in short terms, I will tell you, just so everybody can relate, I am not up here in the clouds 24/7. I am definitely a lazy slug a good 10% of my life. I'm worth nothing and I just take up space a good 10% of my life. And that's my regeneration time. I'm not tuned in. I'm not tapped in. I would notice if an eagle flew next to me. Those are some times in my life. However, with having that and recognizing that in myself and knowing that sometimes I just have to be down here and be really, really grounded, it makes it so much easier for me to know when I'm actually tuned in, because the difference is literally like black and white. And when you are not in the flow, and if you're trying to do this work or, learn or enhance your life or anything like that, if you're not tapped in, tuned in, and turned on and really in the flow, it's nearly impossible to engage because the setting is not right. So the thing that I discovered for me that works the best as a tip and a tool is I've created a ritual for myself to get in that mode. So for instance, I have my own office here in Atlanta. And on the way to the office, I will start praying. I listen to Christian music on the way in, Joel Osteen to be specific. And I start setting my mind into the mode of service. And then I just start talking out loud to all my angels and my guides, God himself, into my own soul self. And I say, I start talking about how I'm dropping down into my heart and I'm now ready to serve. I ask to serve with high morals and standards and compassion. And I'm ready to welcome my clients into my office. These are my work hours. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity. So I kind of go through this whole, I'm so grateful for my life. And I'm getting on my work hours. And let me tell you, the difference is so incredible when I do this, that it's like you create this muscle memory. If you do it repetitively enough, your body starts to recognize, oh, she's going to work. She's going to go in psychic mode. And everything starts to turn on and you can literally feel it. I can feel the vibrations in my hands. My third eye starts going numb. My crown chakra starts vibrating. All this stuff. And I have such a high testimony of this ritual, which everybody can come up with your own. There's no right or wrong. And personally, I don't say the same prayer every day. Nothing is rehearsed. I just get in that space. I could be talking about my girls, but the point is that you create a ritual that sets the tone. And what's really cool, Jason, and I try not to string this along, is there's been times like I've gotten a phone call in the car when I'm on the way to work, one of my kids naturally, and they've interrupted that time. And all of a sudden I lose track of time and I'm at the office and I'm like, oh gosh. And I realize I'm already tuned in because my head's already, tingling in my forehead. And I'm like, that muscle memory is so strong. My guides already know my path to work. And they say, oh, she's going to work. We're going to turn her on whether she realizes it or not. So, and then I will tell you that I create boundaries. And the reason why I create boundaries and I'm not on all the time is because I think it actually enhances my work to not be on all the time. So it's not watered down. So when I'm working, it's very intentional. You see what I'm saying? And in my common everyday life, if there's something I'm curious about or praying for, or just say it's a prayer, say I want a chocolate chip ice cream, whatever. If that in general, I can be tuned in for certain things and see those signs and synchronicities in everyday life, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm tapped in to do mediumship and to do a psychic reading. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Everything that you shared with that process really does make sense. I often equate it to, it's like you're learning to drive a car. And the first time you have to know how to open the door and sit down in the driver's seat, put on your seatbelt, put the key in the ignition. You got all these steps, right? And then you start the car, you put it in drive, you go forward, you stop. And then the next time, or several times down the road, you just automatically sit down and put your seatbelt on. It's almost one motion. And that's how it seems to me that the rituals tend to compress, and 5 steps become 3. And then you can add a couple more to that. And then that 5 steps becomes 2, right? And then as you progress through your ritual, you're very much getting yourself into that mindset and into that space. And it's really powerful. So let me ask you this. Do you just switch it off at some point? Do you like, okay, thank you so much for your participation today? What does shutting it down look like?
I'm glad you asked that. I actually, as my day ends, I go through kind of, first of all, I do want to let you know that I pray for every single client that comes before me. And I set the intention for that client in the moment, because I'm real careful about, I don't want, I call it safe, not safe sex, but safe psychic. like you're in a doctor's office. And I want to make sure that there's no cross-contamination or bleed through between the other clients. And, you know, I don't want someone else's grandma coming in on this reading, because I'm real careful about protecting the privacy of my clients. So I will not only do I set the intention coming into work, but then I also set an intention for every single client. And then you share as well, you repeat their name 3 times to get to their Akashic records. And
Right.
I've now picked up that because of your tip and tool. And I cannot tell you how powerful it is. It's helped my reading so much. So I appreciate that. And that's the whole thing. I'll get into community in a minute. But so at the end of the day, after I've served everyone, I'll go through my office and I'll cleanse. I'll spray some salt water and just go around and thank my office. You know, I thank my tip jar. I thank my seats, and I thank my air conditioner and my fan and my candles. And I'm like, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I can't wait to be back. Blow it kisses, shut the door, goodbye, go home. And then as I'm driving home, I purposely don't turn on like Joel Osteen and stuff like that. I'll listen to the news or I'll call my kids. And by then, it's so obvious that I'm coming down. All of a sudden, I'm starving. And it's all of a sudden, I'm human again. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm ready to go home and be mom and wife.
I understand that progression as you're kind of shutting things down, and you've wrapped up with the clients, and you know, you kind of take that breath afterwards and release everything, you know, send them on their way with the highest good and all of that. So it's good that you follow up, and a lot of people forget that if you turn yourself on, you can stay on if you don't intentionally shut things down. And over time, that can be very draining. You know,
Absolutely.
I really don't want to, like you said, be up here in the in the spirit space while I'm driving a practical machine down a road with other people on it. Right. That's not.
And I don't want to bring anybody home with me either. I've done paranormal investigations for over 10 years, and I have brought people home from an investigation before. So I'm very careful about protecting that space.
Hitchhikers, energetic hitchhikers.
Hitchhikers all the time. They're in the back seat. I'm like, get out of my car.
Well, clearing that space, you need a big hunk of selenite in your back seat, right?
Yes, absolutely. I stick a selenite wand in between my boobs right here in my bra.
Oh, you know, that pocket, I think every lady that I know that does this, they have something in there. They have a crystal or like a card or something. They have.
I think they need.
It's so convenient.
I think they need to make man bras for that. I mean, it's a perfect place.
we are so far off the subject now. Yay! So I know that people are going to be intrigued by your personality and your abilities and the things that you share. You're so welcome. Thank you. And you bring so much to the world. I know from my personal experience that you helped my beloved and I while her and I were losing one of our pooches, and just the confirmation and the open conversation that was available as a result of your participation in that really helped us, you know, manifest the courage and the strength that we needed to support him and to be with him as he transitioned. So. I, as a testament to you, I know that your work is very powerful and it's very connected, and you're so easy and fun to work with. Even when it's a difficult time, there's still that level of humor, that level of understanding that you bring to the table that is refreshing. Right? You're very real about it. You may not like what I'm about to say, but here it is. And that's got to be part of the equation, you know. So thank you for being that person. It's really powerful, and I love what you do with Psychic Soup. It's such a fun show. You have amazing guests on there, so it's nice that we could reciprocate, you know, and be on each other's events here. So. People that want to reach out to you, they want to find you, they want to watch you on your show. How does all that happen?
So in a nutshell, you can go to just Google the United Intentions Foundation. They have a website, also a Facebook page, and they post all their Facebook Live videos on there. My show, Psychic Soup, is every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But you can also get the uimediaapp.com. It's at uimediaapp.com, and you can watch the shows live whenever they come on. I'm also on Spreaker and YouTube and several other places. You can also go to my Facebook pages, which are Beth Peters, psychicmedium.com. And I have a website, www.bethpeterspsychicmedium.com. To book appointments with me, you'll go on there. Also find me on Instagram, bethpeterspsychicmedium.com. You'll notice a pattern here. And my email is, I bet you can't guess it, beth@bethpeterspsychicmedium.com. And believe it or not, I love it when people text me. I save all my contacts. If you want to book an appointment, it's as simple as texting me, and we can set that up too, because I also do phone readings as well as in person. And my number is 770-712-4010.
Perfect. All of that will be in the description, including the phone number. And that is bethpeterspsychicmedium.com. I feel like
really?
we just went through a radio commercial, right? I don't need to write it down because I can remember it. 888-771. So that I do see the trend. I notice. All right. Well, thank you so much, Beth, for being so open with the things that work for you. I would love to have you on again, because I know that we have just really gotten the front side of all the tips and tricks and tools and stuff that you have. So we will for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And next time I want to talk about community and continuing education and how important that is.
Fantastic. I love it. So we will set it up. So you guys will be seeing Beth again. Beth Peters. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. You can catch her on Psychic Soup. You'll be able to obviously get down into the description of the video here and make any of the connections that you need to. I want to say thanks to everybody for watching and listening. This is going to conclude our episode of The Spiritual Handyman, putting the spiritual tools into the hands of the people that need them. We will see you next time around. Take care.
Thank you.
The Spiritual Handyman, bringing spiritual tools to the hands of the people who need them. Sponsored by the Eagle Heart Foundation. The Eagle Heart Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that brings charitable contributions and educational enhancements to the people. So how can you be a part of the Spiritual Handyman and the Eagle Heart Foundation? The Triple Win Situation. This book was written by Granddaughter Crow, and half of the proceeds go to the Eagle Heart Foundation, which in turn sponsors the Spiritual Handyman. How to get it one? It's on Amazon and Kindle for only $9.99. So we are here to bring tools to you. Thank you so much, Spiritual Handyman. We believe in what you do.